The night was bitter cold. Snowflakes drifted under the flickering streetlight, landing on the shoulders of a young girl huddled on the bench at the bus stop. Her coat was thin, barely clinging to warmth, and her shoes were torn at the edges. She tried to keep her trembling hands tucked under her arms, her eyes staring at the dark road where no bus seemed to come. She had nothing left, no home to go back to, no family to call, not even a few coins in her pocket. Hunger gnawed at her stomach, but it was the loneliness that hurt the most. Just then, she felt a small tug at her sleeve. Startled, she turned her head. A little boy, no older than 6, stood there with wide, innocent eyes. His cheeks were red from the cold, but his smile carried a strange warmth. "Miss," he whispered, leaning closer, as if sharing a secret. "Can you be my mommy?" The girl froze. Her breath caught in her throat. Of all the things she expected to hear that night, those words struck her heart like lightning. She blinked back tears, staring at the boy who clutched a ragged teddy bear in his tiny hands. Before she could answer, a man's voice called out from across the street. The boy turned, but not before pressing the bear into her lap, as if gifting her a piece of himself. The girl held it tight, unaware her life had just changed forever. The girl's fingers tightened around the teddy bear, its fur worn but still soft. Her heart raced as she looked at the boy who had just asked the impossible. His eyes lingered on her for a moment longer, filled with an innocence that pierced through her shivering despair. "Ethan!" The man's voice came again, firmer this time. A tall figure emerged from the shadows, wrapped in a heavy coat. He crossed the street quickly, his boots crunching against the snow. The girl's instinct was to shrink back, to disappear. She had grown used to avoiding people, fearing their judgment. But the man's expression was not harsh, just worried. He reached for the boy's hand gently. "You can't just run off like that. You scared me." Ethan held up a finger, pointing at the girl. "But Daddy, she's cold. She doesn't have a mommy, maybe she needs one." The man followed his son's gaze. His eyes softened as he noticed her trembling frame, the way she clutched the teddy bear like it was her only anchor. For a moment, silence hung heavy in the air. Then he spoke, quiet, but steady. "Are you all right?" he asked. Her throat tightened. She wanted to say yes, to brush off her suffering like she always did. But instead, her lips quivered, and the truth slipped out in a whisper. "I don't have anywhere to go." The man's jaw clenched, as if fighting back emotions. He looked at Ethan, then back at her. "Come with us," he said finally. "At least for tonight. No one should be alone out here." The girl's chest ached. She had expected cold indifference from the world. Instead, kindness had appeared in the form of a child's question and a stranger's compassion. And it terrified her. The girl hesitated, her gaze flicking between the man and the boy. She wasn't used to kindness. Every time she trusted it before, it had slipped away, leaving her more broken. I shouldn't," she whispered, rising from the cold bench. But her legs trembled, weak from days of skipping meals. She swayed, and before she could steady herself, the man caught her arm gently. "You need rest," he said firmly, yet not unkindly. "We live nearby. You'll be safe." Safe. The word felt foreign to her. Still, the boy's small hand reached for hers, warm despite the icy air. "Please come," Ethan said, his eyes shining with a sincerity she couldn't resist. They walked together through quiet streets until they reached a modest brick house, its windows glowing with golden light. Inside, the warmth wrapped around her like a blanket. She blinked at the sight of family photos on the wall, smiling faces, memories frozen in frames. The man set down his keys. "I'm Daniel," he introduced himself softly. "And this is Ethan. What's your name?" She hesitated, clutching the teddy bear. "Lila." Ethan grinned. "Lila, you can sit by the fire. Daddy makes the best cocoa." Lila's chest tightened. She hadn't heard her name spoken with such gentleness in years. Daniel poured her a steaming cup, the rich aroma filling the room. She wrapped her hands around it, letting the warmth seep into her bones. For the first time in forever, she wasn't invisible. But as she sipped, guilt gnawed at her. This wasn't her world. She was an outsider, a broken girl clinging to borrowed kindness. And yet, Ethan sat beside her, leaning his head on her arm as if he'd known her forever. "See?" he whispered. "You're already my mommy." Lila's hand froze around the cup, Ethan's words echoing inside her like a fragile melody she wasn't allowed to keep. "You're already my mommy." Her throat tightened. She wanted to pull away, to remind him she was just a stranger. But the little boy's trust disarmed her completely. She hadn't felt needed in years, not since her parents passed, not since life had stripped her of everything. Daniel watched the scene quietly. His gaze was steady, thoughtful. "Ethan lost his mother 2 winters ago," he said gently. "He doesn't say much about it, but tonight he saw something in you." Lila's eyes burned. "I can't be that for him. I can't be anything." Daniel shook his head. "You're wrong. You've already been something tonight, someone who listened, someone who cared enough not to push him away." The words cut through the thick wall she had built around herself. She looked down at Ethan, who had dozed off against her arm, clutching the teddy bear she still held. His soft breaths rose and fell, innocent and trusting. Why would you bring me here?" she asked finally. "You don't even know me." Daniel leaned back, his expression firm but kind. "Because I know what it's like to lose everything and have no one notice. And because my son believes you're meant to be here. That's enough for me." Lila swallowed hard, torn between running and staying. A part of her wanted to bolt before she ruined this fragile kindness. But another part, buried deep, longed to believe she had stumbled into something more than an accident. That night, as the snow fell heavier outside, she stayed. For the first time in years, Lila allowed herself to sleep without fear. Morning sunlight slipped through the curtains, painting the small living room in a soft glow. Lila stirred, realizing she had fallen asleep on the couch with Ethan still curled beside her. For a fleeting moment, it felt like she belonged here, like the ache of loneliness had been erased by the warmth of a child's trust. But reality rushed back. She was homeless, with no future to offer. She carefully moved Ethan's little hand off her arm and stood, ready to slip out before they regretted letting her in. "Leaving so soon?" Daniel's voice stopped her. He stood at the doorway, coffee in hand, his gaze calm but unreadable. Lila lowered her eyes. "I shouldn't stay. You've already done more than enough. I don't want to be a burden." Daniel set his cup down, stepping closer. "A burden? My son hasn't smiled like that in months. He slept peacefully for the first time since his mother passed. That's not a burden, Lila. That's a gift." Her chest ached at his words. No one had ever spoken of her presence as a gift. Still, she whispered, "I have nothing, Daniel. No job, no family, nothing to give back." He shook his head. "Sometimes it isn't about what you can give. Sometimes it's about being willing to stay. To let someone care for you while you heal." Lila's lips trembled. She wanted to believe him, but fear clawed at her heart. What if I can't be enough for him? For Ethan? Daniel's reply was quiet, but unwavering. You already are. The question is, will you let yourself see it? For the first time, Lila didn't have an answer. But in Ethan's sleepy voice, drifting from the couch, came the one she needed. You're enough, Mommy. Lila's eyes filled with tears as Ethan's sleepy whisper settled deep into her soul. Mommy. The word both terrified and healed her at once. She pressed her trembling hands to her face, trying to hide the flood of emotions she had long buried. Daniel didn't rush her. He simply placed a hand on her shoulder, steady and reassuring. Sometimes, he said softly, the family we need finds us when we least expect it. Lila slowly lowered her hands, her gaze shifting to Ethan. The boy had curled back into sleep, his small arms wrapped protectively around the teddy bear. And yet, even in slumber, his face carried peace, as though he trusted she'd be there when he woke. For the first time in years, she let herself believe in something fragile and beautiful. Hope. The days that followed blurred into small miracles. Daniel helped her find fresh clothes and offered her work at his local bookstore. Ethan insisted on holding her hand everywhere they went, introducing her proudly as my mommy. And though Lila corrected him at first, the words soon stopped feeling borrowed. Each night, sitting by the fireplace, laughter began to replace silence. And slowly, Lila realized she wasn't just surviving anymore, she was living. One snowy evening, as they shared cocoa, Daniel looked at her with quiet conviction. You don't have to run anymore, Lila. This is your home now, if you'll have it. Her heart swelled, tears brimming once again. She nodded, unable to speak, but her smile said everything. At the bus stop, she once had nothing. But with a child's whisper, and a stranger's kindness, she had gained the one thing she thought she'd lost forever: family. And this time, she wasn't letting go.